All right. You brought this up a little bit earlier. Representative Tlaib was at a conference the other day, and she was out there talking. Now, keep in mind, she is a Democrat. So I'm not somebody that is necessarily a tribal person, and Miss Tlaib is a Muslim, so she has, some skin in the game, I guess you say here, that I certainly understand, and I would not disparage her for sticking up for what she believes is right for her community and her people. And that's not, I was about to say it's not for me to say. It is for me. She absolutely has the right to speak her mind, but she was at this conference the other day, and I don't know what we're doing here, Lana. Let's take a listen to it real quick, and maybe you could tell me what the strategy is here.
Each year, our country, and I say our country because it is our country, sends billions of dollars to maintain an apartheid government and support the ongoing ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. It is disgraceful that the Biden administration and my colleagues in Congress continue to smear them for protesting to save lives, no matter faith or ethnicity. It is cowardly. But we're not going to forget in November, are we? The International Court of Justice just ruled that the Israeli government must stop its invasion of Rafah. But President Biden says what's happening in Gaza is not a genocide. Where's your red line, President Biden? You all, every single bullet, every single gun, every single weapon, bombs that we send is a sacrifice of our own schools here at home. Many of which, when I go into the schools, have garbage bags over their drinking fountains because they don't have clean water. President Biden, I hope you hear us loud and clear. Attacking the authority of the International Criminal Court and interfering in the legal process is nothing more than an attempt to prevent the genocidal maniac Netanyahu and his senior Israeli officials from being held accountable for those crimes against humanity. You are an enabler, President Biden. But wait, you know when my colleagues are outraged? They're outraged over the protest on college campuses in our country. They're more outraged than that, than the atrocities happening right now on the ground in Palestine, the war crimes.
And she's just about done. In fact, there's one thing that struck me is that she didn't mention Benjamin Netanyahu until about 2 minutes into that clip there. Now, in fairness, it looked like it was cut up a little bit, so I don't know if she had mentioned him before then, but I don't know, Lana. Again, I promise you, I don't know. I don't dive too much into this because I don't know. It's something that I know is horrific. I know it's something that is terrible. I wish it was not happening for everybody involved. But what's the play here? I mean, we're just basically demeaning President Biden the whole speech.
Right. And that's the big question. What's the play here? Like, so don't vote for Biden. So what does that solve? Because at the end of the day, there's two choices here. There's one person, the president now, who is just in between a rock and a hard spot, right? Like, America has had these policies and these allies from since before he was the president, right? And I understand the passion, because you have to. Those are people. Like, how do you, it's hard to separate it, and it's going to make you crazy when you're seeing them being slaughtered. But then we still have to continue to focus on who is doing it. And it's not Biden, it's Netanyahu. And I think Biden is like, it's that fine line that we always talk about that he's trying to walk, whereas he can't say Israel, because Netanyahu is not all of Israel, right? So, like, how do you say Netanyahu, I'm not your ally, but I'm still Israel's ally? You can't separate the too right now. So America has to continue to be Israel's ally because we need them at that on that part of the region. Like that's what I understand, right? That's a safety issue for America for us to have an ally over in that area. I also understood that they stopped giving them offensive weapons and are only giving them defensive weapons. The other piece to this is that they can't stop giving Israel weapons because once Israel doesn't have any weapons or any help, they're still Hamas, right? Like, so they're not fighting a war against the Muslims, they're fighting the war against Hamas. So once we don't help, Hamas is like, boom, let's go exterminate the Jewish people. Yep. So that's how crazy the situation is.
Yeah, there's no easy answer, and we're sitting here pretending like there is, and it just like you said, he's kind of stuck in a rock between a rock, because now let's say he does everything Representative Tlaib wants you to do. Now you've just lost a whole bunch of people, and you're going to get help from another side. So again,
it doesn't right.
And also Joe Biden, from everything that I've seen and understood, has said and has tried to do what he can. And even Netanyahu's come out and said, whatever it is you're going to do, we don't care. We're going to keep bombing the shit out of these people.
Stop. He can't make this stop. That's the craziest thing. He can't make him stop. Like, and it's not his war.
Well, the opposite, side of that is, Donald Trump being elected as president of the United States. And if she thinks she's mad now, wait until she sees what would happen if Donald Trump is the president. She clearly knows this. If you and I know this, I know she knows this.
And the other piece to me is that go request a meeting with Blinken or Biden or a part of his administration. Figure out what he's doing as much as he can tell you. Like, have those kind of meetings. But to come out and say that and urge against voting for him does not help Palestine. I don't know how that helps you.
I can tell you what else it doesn't help. It doesn't help the United States of America, the country that she lives in.
Doesn't help her daughters. Daughters, if she has daughters, it's not going to help her daughters to have no reproductive rights.
Yeah, and what I'm saying, I'm not trying to be a nationalist here, but what I am saying is that we do still live in the United States of America, and we still have to consider, we have to put on the scale as awful. And it's horrible to say this, and it's tough to say it, but as horrible as the things that are happening in Gaza, again, do we just go, all right, you know what? Fuck our future and let everything happen to us. We'll just do everything we can to save Gaza. I mean, save what's happening in Gaza.
Trump is not going to save Gaza.
No, he's clearly not.
That's the point. Trump is not going. This thing that Biden is trying to do, because as far as I can remember, every time some hostages were released, because there are still some hostages there.
Yeah.
Because something that Biden worked out, like them to, have some peace and ceasefire so that there are still hostages there. Like, we're talking like that's not a thing either. Like, I don't get it. And I don't know why Trump doesn't get held to count. It's always like, Biden, you're going to suffer. Let me tell you, Biden's not going to suffer.
Right.
We're going to suffer.
Right.
Biden's not suffering ever.
That is correct.
Biden goes with Jill off into the sunset.
Yeah.
If Trump doesn't get him arrested. Like, I don't know.
Well, that's a possibility. But Trump also has made it clear that he will tell Netanyahu to go in and finish the job and do what it is what you got to do.
Right. Nikki Haley is writing that on friggin' the artillery. Like, what are we talking about?
And this is, it sucks because we do live in a fucked up world. I mean, we just really do. Again, I've made this point before, and it kind of irritates me that, I'm not a religious guy, and I respect people's religion and everything. But when a lot of this strife and war and unnecessary murder is going on in the name of religion, I reject that. And that irritates me. I'm sorry. That just does that, and again, at the end of the day, we have a country that is really on the brink of.
It's the country, it's the world. It's just
It's the
really
world too.
an awful situation. And we just really have to go back to how this started. And it's Hamas. And Hamas, Putin is happy right now because Putin is getting its way.
No question.
It took us so long to deliver aid to Ukraine. Hamas is okay because they've embedded their, hideouts and stuff underneath civilian territory so that, if civilians die, they can, add to the body count or exaggerate the body count and then make it seem like Israel is like, it's bad.
It is bad. And, quite frankly, if Rashida Tlaib was in front of me, I certainly wouldn't be like, oh, you're a fucking idiot and go fuck yourself.
Because she's not. I get it. It's just,
it's an awful thing. And I know her mindset is, we don't have until November to wait because people are dying. I absolutely get that. But, at the same time, if Donald Trump wins, it's over. And in fact, Ayanna Pressley, who is considered part of the quote unquote squad, she was describing what Project 2025 would do to this country. And the ironic thing is that Ms. Tlaib was sitting right next to her as she was.
Squad has kind of separated a little bit, not to cut you off, but like, they're not really, because AOC did a whole
she did
with Biden, so they understand how dire this is.
They really do. And this is Miss Pressley just kind of breaking down, if you haven't heard of Project 2025 by now. And I wonder, Lana, do you think that a lot of the MAGA people know what Project 2025 is?
No. And you know what? If they did, they wouldn't care. They'd be like, that's hyperbole.
I mean, it's in written form. It's a 900 plus page document that says exactly what the fuck it is they're going to do. Steve Bannon, which I'm going to play a clip about in a minute, a lot of these guys brag about it. So I wonder if people kind of heard of it and sort of know what it is, but they don't understand the scope of.
They don't think it impacts them. It impacts the other. They don't think it impacts them. They are white. They don't think it impacts them. And even the Black Trump supporters don't think it impacts them because they support Trump. So for some reason they think like it wouldn't impact them. That's really what it is. If they knew that it would impact them, they wouldn't support it. They just think that it's not.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. But here is Miss Pressley, and she's going to lay out what Project 2025 is all about. And she does it in about a minute and a half. But, I would encourage people to put more time into this and see exactly what this thing is all about.
Sound the alarm. Project 2025 is a far-right manifesto. It is a 1,000-page bucket list of extremist policies that would uproot every government agency and disrupt the lives of every person who calls this country home. I won't detail every aspect, but I'll share some highlights. The Department of Education would be eliminated, cutting students off from civil rights protections and ending essential Title I funding for K through 12 schools.
Real quick, I mean, people understand. Do we understand why they want to eliminate the Department of Education?
Yeah, and they've been wanting to do this forever. That's why they put what's her face. Remember, whatever that woman's name that was like the head of the department.
Betsy DeVos.
Yeah. They've been wanting to get rid of that.
Billionaire. She was a billionaire who was in charge of the Department of Education. To make clear, They don't want people in this country to be educated. Just clearly look at who votes
Right.
for MAGA and who votes for Donald Trump.
Yeah.
The billionaires do not want you to be educated. George Carlin did a whole bit on this that was fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
He just said that they want you smart enough to be able to do the job in the business that they run. And outside of that, you don't need to know anything else.
Right.
And that's what it comes down to. They don't want you to be educated. I've said this a billion times. They should teach starting in like 3rd grade economics and how to run a checkbook and what it means to invest in money in the future. They should teach kids this every single year. But guess what? The Department of Education, especially under Donald Trump, that it won't even be close to what the fuck you're going to be taught.
Nope.
Department of Justice would go on a murdering spree. It would rush to use the death penalty and expand its use to even more people while circumventing due process protections. Project 25 not only calls for national book bans in schools, but also creates a list of banned words for the federal government that would be deleted from, quote, every federal rule, agency regulation, contract, grant, and piece of legislation that exists.
They're the free speech party, aren't they? First Amendment.
Yep.
They're banning fucking words.
Right. That they don't like. Because
Right.
they're the only ones that get to speak freely.
They'll tell us what words we're allowed to say,
Right.
what words we're not allowed to say, but Joe Biden's the authoritarian figure.
Exactly.
End quote. Here are just a few of the words on the list: diversity, gender, reproductive health, and of course, conservatives want to ban the word abortion. On that note, abortion care would be inaccessible and illegal no matter where you live. Take it from them. On page 6 of its playbook, Project 2025 states, quote, the Dobbs decision is just the beginning, end quote. People, even in my district, the Massachusetts 7th, a leader in repro justice, would be criminalized for pursuing essential health care. Now, we could have an entire hearing on how these policies would quite literally ruin and end lives. And I didn't even touch upon proposals for housing, climate change, worker protections, and more. If enacted, Project 2025 would destroy the federal government as we know it.
Again, that was only about a 1.5-minute clip, but just in that clip, it's scary enough to think about what could happen. And as she said towards the end, I didn't even get into more than half the shit in this thing. And it's available online. Anybody can read it if they want.
I mean, it's shit like, shit, I said shit, sorry.
Wait, when you've cursed before on the show, what are you talking about?
Wanting to fire everyone from the federal government if you're not a loyalist to Trump. So if you have a federal job, post office, whatever, judges, he wants to get rid of you if you are not a loyalist.
Yep.
They're talking about putting barbed wire at the border.
Yep.
They actually talk about moats and crocodiles. Like, stop playing. Like, they really are. Y'all, wake up. Wake the fuck up.
You know what's going to be... You know what's crazy? Let's say they put the barbed wire, they did all that stuff, and there was no immigrants coming to this country anymore. Right. Not only are they going to see that the same amount of crime is happening in this country pretty much, but they're going to find out that that's going to hurt the economy. I don't think people really even understand what immigrants, whether they're here, documented or undocumented, do for the economy of this country. People don't understand that. And no, the undocumented immigrants absolutely 100% are not taking your jobs. If you can't get the same job that an undocumented immigrant has, then the problem's not with the undocumented immigrant. It's with you, you fucking idiot.
I just wanted to show you this since we just watched Ayanna.
Yep.
Who's that?
Is that who's that with her?
Me.
That's you?
And Ayanna.
You look like you're 18 years old.
How cool is that?
That is awesome. When did you meet her?
Oh my goodness, maybe 2 years ago.
Okay.
At the Strand Theater here in Massachusetts. It was a Boston Arts thing.
Yeah. Oh, so she just happened to be there.
Well, there's a few politicians there.
Okay.
Yeah, because she spearheads a lot of the arts in Boston. Like,
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, and that's it is, there are some of these people that it would be cool to meet for sure.
Huh? Which one?
I said, some like politicians and stuff like that you admire and that are
Yeah.
actually doing the work for the
Yeah.
American people would be cool
Yeah,
to meet.
in the community. She is in the community. You
Yeah.
will see her in the community. So
Yeah,
that's
and
really
that's great. And those are the representatives we need and the ones who understand, like her. And even AOC, like she said,
right.
she understands. It's clear she understands the program. She understands what this country is going to turn into.
Right.
If even people like her, she would be, she wouldn't be allowed to speak the way she speaks now.
Right. Because they're going to change all of the rules of Congress. The Supreme Court, we think they're fucked up now. I mean, they're going
Right.
to retire. The old Republicans are going to retire. Trump is going to put young ones in that will be here for the next, 40 years?
For the rest of certainly our lives and a lot of our, the children's lives and stuff like that. The Supreme Court is going to be something in this country that they are not going to like at all. And in fact, the only thing that scares me a little bit is that when people like us go away, that they're going to be used to that kind of America. And it's going to be something that is now commonplace because right now in America, fucking Donald Trump is somewhat, it's not even somewhat, he's normalized in a way.
Absolutely.
Where we're comparing Joe Biden to this fucking clown.
You're right. And that's the absolute scary part because people will be lulled into thinking that this is just the way it is.
Yep.
Like it'll be like back in the 40s or 50s. Like this is just the way it is. Like they may not touch interracial marriage because of Clarence Thomas, or maybe they will, but they definitely are going to stop gay people from going into stores, certain establishments. They're going to be able to choose whether they want to serve you or not. They'll end up they're going to have like some type of case that goes all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court is going to say, oh, they can do whatever they want with their business. It's their business. So they're going to be signs that say, that they don't seat you. Like back in the day, no coloreds. Like no homosexuals allowed. Like what? That's what they want. That is coming.
Let me ask you, Lana, do you really think, let's say Judge Clarence Thomas, let's say he retires. Do you think if they came up with a something about non-racial marriages from that point, he'd give a fuck?
Right, because his is protected. He's a Supreme Court judge. He don't give a fuck what they do and say about you. His is going to be okay. He doesn't care if you don't have it. He's okay.
I was thinking, because we keep saying that he's going to replace judges that are more radical than the ones there. But is that possible? Because Clarence Thomas and Judge Alito seem pretty fucking radical.
Yeah, but imagine having Stephen Miller as a judge in the Supreme Court.
Yeah. But the difference is you're going to have them now for 40 years.
Right, exactly.
And that's
thinking. No one is thinking about that. Like you get in your bubble, you go to work, you get your check, you do whatever, and you just don't think until like you get a knock on the door and they're deporting your husband or your family or whatever. They're like, no, we don't want anyone here from Jamaica or whatever anymore. Like, I don't care, but we're revoking your citizenship. You haven't been here long enough. Like, if you haven't been here 10 years, you got to go. Like, they could just do anything.
Yeah, what they want to turn this country into is they want to turn it into Russia, is what they want to do. They want it to be just like Russia, where they control the media. They control everything that goes on. And, people are talking about Donald Trump may not leave if he wins. And some people are like, that's ridiculous. You've got... I can't remember what amendment it is, but the fact is that it's called an amendment for a reason, is because Congress changed a certain rule at some point, and you're trying to tell me that these people aren't going to get together and try to change something in the Constitution again to make it to do wherever they can do whatever they want?
He's gonna be like, guardrails? What guardrails? Let's take the guardrails down. Like they know he has learned from his last time in office that stuff is done. They are working on this to the T.
Let me ask you something, Lana, because you and I can hear people from MAGA and they will throw up some things that are red flags for them that could happen to this country if Joe Biden wins and that America's over, and they're panicking, right?
Okay.
So we laugh at that. And now we're in a mode where we're panicked that America could be ended based on our knowledge and what we know. Now, logic will tell us that what we're talking about is certainly more of a concern than what they're talking about. So is there any way, how do we get them to understand more our side? Because we know they're never going to get us to get them to understand their side. You know what I mean? It's just not happening because there's no reality to it.
Right.
And I think we've talked about that we can even show them proof, and it just doesn't matter to them. They can't show us the proof what they think is going to happen. That's a problem.
Yeah, they can't. Oh, I don't even know what they say if Biden takes over, like
socialist country.
Men get to use the women's bathroom and play women's sport. Like, is that what that's the threat to democracy? Hell, I go into the men's room sometimes if I'm in a club and it's line. Like, I just.
And I'll tell you, when a woman comes into the men's bathroom, they're the most welcome person in there. Like, oh, let her go.
Yeah, they don't care. Like, no one cares.
No,
like,
I mean,
so bizarre.
I thought about this the other day. The thing that drives me nuts too is that it's this idea that Democrats, liberals, whatever the fuck you want. I don't really like the terms and the labels and all that stuff. Here's how I look at it is they look at it as a party that just wants transgender gays and everybody to just take over your children, to do all sort of weird things with them sexually.
Around,
I've got one too. So I don't know if is he flying in and out of our screens to your
I know, it's so weird. I was like, is that my fly or his?
I don't know. Get the fuck out of here.
I don't even know how this fly got in.
I actually think I tapped him too when I slapped. But shit, I don't even remember what I was saying.
Transgender.
Oh no, that's what I was gonna say. They act like the Democrats are just really wanting transgender, all that stuff to take over. Here's what I think is really the bottom line. The bottom line is this, and Lana, tell me if you think the same thing or if you think differently, but Democrats, liberals, whatever the fuck you want to call us, I think we just look at people who are not like us and we go, oh, okay, I mean, as long as they're not hurting anybody, we don't really care. We're not looking for them to take over. We're not looking for them to do something with your child. That's not the idea. How do we get people to understand that a little easier, that this is not something that we are fighting to make sure that a transgender person can do sexual things with your children. It's just so weird.
It's just dumb. Who even thinks that, like, oh, libtards just want,
pedophiles is something that I hear all the time. They were calling Robert De Niro a pedophile because he was on the Epstein Island. I saw today. I'm just like, Jesus Christ. What?
But not Trump. No. But not Trump. He's the only one that was just because
Trump by the way, Trump is the only one that actually has a public record of a case where he and Jeffrey Epstein raped a 13-year-old girl. You can look that up online.
Right. And he's also the creepy one that said all the creepy things about his daughter, calling her hot. And he would marry her or
they asked him, what do you have most in common with her? He says, well, I would say sex, but I'm like, what the, who says that about
Well,
their daughter?
that is not weird. Not at all.
No, and there's an actual clip of it. You can see it. And they go, oh, well, what about Joe Biden showering with his daughter? I'm like, oh, yeah, this is.
Where did that even come from?
They're claiming that in Ashley's diary that was stolen, and the girl who stole it is now in prison. That there was a passage in there about when she was younger, took a shower with dad. It probably wasn't appropriate, something to that effect, but there was nothing in there that said he sexually molested her. And there were some things, I don't want to get too into the weeds about it. And it's not because I'm scared to talk about it and I think it's true and I'm afraid, it's none of that bullshit. It's just some things have to be substantiated. And it's my understanding that him and his daughter have a fine relationship right now, that there's nothing nefarious about their relationship. So
it's so weird because I, just no shade, but my kids and their dad, I just remember he would give them baths. Like, is this a point where fathers can't bathe their children?
Look, they have to reach. They have to find anything. And again, you're going to let some of these people who are even in higher positions allow this to manifest into something that's real. Like Joe Biden loves to molest little children because he sniffed somebody's hair once. Or just, it's just so wacky that again, that's what the concern is.